Angie. It's such a pleasure to have you. Thank you for coming today and for joining me.
I appreciate the invitation. I'm excited to be here with you. Thank you.
Yes, of course. I want to start with basically introducing you from my side, and then I would like you to start with telling us a bit how you create value in the world. So you have very innovative strategies, right? You're known for your innovative strategies, and you're working with the quantum field, correct?
Yes.
You're a specialist in that. So you have started multiple successful ventures. And
successful for a time, right?
Right, exactly. And you empower a lot of people out there. And I'm super, super happy to have you here because I think you're one of those creative geniuses. So welcome. And maybe we start by you telling us a bit how you create value in the world.
Yeah, so I think that it's really, this is a unique time and space that we're in as a collective, as a community, as being human. And I think that it's really important in this time to normalize what it means to be human. And when I say that, I mean complete embodiment of self-mastery of thoughts, feelings, physicality, and becoming like the walking, talking, feeling version of what we're here to embody so that we can bring through what our mastery and genius is, because we all have it and we're all here to share it with each other.
Right, right. There are lots of people who are not so aware of them, what their mastery is, right? So what would you tell them typically?
Yeah, so I think that that's always really interesting. I think that clarity is kind of a little bit of a myth. I feel like when you are truly living the embodied version of yourself, you move into what I consider co-creation. And co-creation is about developing your awareness and being present with what is. And from that place of power, that's actually how you can move through the world. Clarity is not, you don't get clarity to create. You move with what presents, and that is the creation.
Right. That's an interesting one. So how do we actually, because we're going to be talking a bit about opportunities today. So in that realm, how do you actually suggest to find opportunities or hidden gems, especially in business or for business owners?
Yeah, so I think business is interesting to me. I don't see a distinction between like the business being outside of the individual who's enacting it. Mm-hmm. Those are two things are very tethered. And so when you know your distinct operating system and you have understanding and knowledge that you can practically enact who you are, decondition what society has told you the way that you're supposed to be, and truly live into the life force energy that you are here to occupy, that is actually the key to success in all areas of your life, not just business. Business is an extension of you. Relationships are an extension of you. Your internal world is making and creating all of the external elements.
Yes. Totally with you there. How do you make sure that people recognize, or do you have a trick how people can recognize, hey, there's an opportunity presenting itself, right? Because a lot of us are like so much ingrained into their day-to-day life, right? That they might miss a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I think opportunities are important. And I think that it really is about slowing down and coming to understand who you are in the world. I work with a lot of modalities that have like what your blueprint is. Mm-hmm. So what your energetic signature is, how you're to operate, kind of the specificness of you. Because I could tell the world something that's like, I did it this way, but I'm not here to share with you what I did in a lot of ways, because that's not what you're here to enact.
Exactly. So how do you do that?
Well, there's just several systems that I use that I basically create what your template is in the world, and then I'm able to share what your unique operating system is. And when you know how to move into that space, then you can actually start to enact those things that work with co-creation and create magnification in your life. We are here to be magnetized. I have operated a lot of my life through force, and it was lovely. I had a lot of success with it, but it was limited success because you can only create on this human plane, like through force, as much human that you can put into it.
So when you say force, just to clarify, when you say force, you're talking about this typical element of hard work, correct?
Yeah, well, it's not just hard work. It's showing up. It's forcing yourself to show up in ways that don't feel aligned. Mm-hmm. It's forcing yourself. I mean, I could list all the ways, but it's force, not just in, I'm going to work hard. It's forcing, I'm going to show up and I'm going to extend myself because I watched someone's video and they told me that this is what I need to do to be successful.
I know what you mean. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So coming from the inside, from the outside in versus from the inside out.
Yes. How do we create that internal landscape that is actually directionally true for you so that you can honor yourself and trust yourself enough to actually follow it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings me into the question then, because creativity and resourcefulness should come from the inside, and it does come from the inside. So how important is that element of creativity and resourcefulness in that context?
Oh my gosh, I love where you're going with this.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I feel like creativity is the key component. So when you have curiosity to play with life, when you can show up in the exploration of what's available for you in the moments you have, what happens is that your feelings actually become creative fuel for you. A lot of people push their feelings into a space that maybe they don't recognize them, or they're over emotional or under emotional, and they're kind of grappling with like, I don't know, I have all these feelings and I don't know what to do with them. So I'm going to stuff them, or I'm going to outwardly express them inappropriately, or I'm going,
anger, right? Those types of, impatience.
What I think that there's a misunderstanding there is that those feelings are indicators of something very valuable to us. And not only are they indicators of something, they can be converted into fuel for you to use in creative endeavors when channeled properly, right? Like anything else, like you have a car and it can run well or it cannot. Absolutely,
right? Absolutely. So yes, sorry, I didn't want to.
No, go ahead.
No, so I mean, innovative thinking is kind of very tied up with the creativity and resourcefulness, right? So I think, in my experience, you need the space, like you need the head space, you need the heart space to have this innovative thinking. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that space is very important. I'm going to say space is important if you intend to bring in your soul's work.
Right.
That's what I'm going to say. I think that you can show up every day and you can stand in yourself and you can contribute to society in a beautiful way. But if you intend to embody and show up in a way that you're here to distribute your soul's work, space is an imperative, because you have to follow the beat and the rhythm of your own drum in your own system. And you can't allow outside influences to dismiss or destroy the precious thing that you are building because they can't see it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I totally get that. Like, I mean, obviously life throws us some curveballs sometimes. So, I mean, here comes the question, you will like that one too, is adaptability, right? So how important is adaptability?
I think it's...
Today, we always talk about adaptability and agility. So how important is that?
I think it's really important from an experimental point of view when things aren't working for you. I also would say that I not put as much weight on adaptability as I would in resilience in your life. I think being resilient is more important than being adaptable, because resilience fortifies you. It creates a way that those experiences that you've had, you can move forward in your life and understand that there was value and purpose and meaning, and something very special evolved, even if it didn't turn out the way you expected. I can give you a little tiny example of that. When I was very young, I didn't graduate high school, I didn't go to college, and I had like no idea what I was doing in my life or my past. So I worked in probably 10 different industries, doing a lot of different things, and was very unfulfilled by a lot of them. And what ended up happening is when I was 24 years old, I started my first business. I became an entrepreneur. And every one of those skills and every one of those facets that I learned in all of those industries, I learned accounting, I learned customer service, I learned supply chain distribution. All of that accumulated to the thing that was so enlivened for me. And I would never take any of those things back, but it was very muddy and I felt very lost, and I didn't understand why I was doing so many things.
Oh yeah. So you're making a good point. I mean, resilience and adaptability are two different levels, of course, right? So I think one doesn't exclude the other. So if you're really resilient, I think that is a very good indicator for adaptability as well, right? Because that means, it's like the child who tries to get up a certain way and falls down on his butt, and then he tries a different way. So I think these two items are very much entwined, right?
Yeah, they play together for sure.
Right. So, and because you have a lot of clients, so what do you tell them? How would they overcome challenges? What do you tell them? I mean, some people are going through really rough times. So how do you?
Yeah, it kind of depends on where you are in your journey, like what is going to resonate here. But I personally and firmly know that through conflict, we actually get resolution. So through tension, right? Because we are made of sound, that is all we are, is vibrational sound. When we have tension, there's no choice but to create resolution. So conflict and challenge is a beautiful aspect for you to learn to grow in life. It's a beautiful aspect for you to learn to move in a direction that your soul is calling you to move in. And when you have a different perspective, it allows you to interact with it differently and show up differently. You can be innovative in challenge. You can be, you can be adaptable in challenge. And that's not just mindset work. It's feelings and it's heart. It's all of it combined and collapsed in on itself. You need all of those aspects to create in the way that is meaningful.
Yeah, and as I always tell my clients, right, like something gets fulfilled means you had a desire, even if it's a terrible. I mean, even if you're experiencing something terrible, I think fulfillment is always an indication somehow of desire, even though it's an unconscious desire, and that means overcoming whatever we created will make us grow.
It's true. It's true. And with that, I've been on this planet a hot minute. You've been on this planet.
Have we both?
A hot minute. So I would also say that as we develop and develop our awareness, you start to notice patterns that you are stuck in the loop in, and it really takes it takes a lot to recognize it. I have been fortunate to have outside sources and mentors that have helped me, because most of our challenge, we don't even really have the availability to see it for what it is. And that's why the patterns keep repeating, right? You find yourself in the same circumstance or the same feeling or the same outcome, and you're like, I don't get it. All I do is try and I struggle.
Exactly, right? So these are these classical loops you're going through, right?
Yeah.
And so basically you were saying that that's the point where you need to get outside help.
I
very
think
useful. It's very useful to get outside.
Yeah, and I think guidance is always available. I'm not saying that you have to like go find a coach. I'm just saying that you're always being guided. And again, you kind of need to slow into yourself. And why are you making these choices? What is causing you to step into the abyss of the same cycle of repeated patterns?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I think a lot of us do that, or all of us do that one way or another.
I was stuck in a pattern for years. I actually just cleared it probably like 2 years ago, and I feel like a new person. Like it's death and rebirth.
Wow.
At its core.
You recognized it, and then you worked on it. You did inner work.
Yeah, there's no other thing to do but inner work. Inner work is how you stand in yourself. It's how you create your worth. It's how you create your value. Inner work is the way that you become who you're meant to be in this world.
Yes. Now, I'm sure we have some people in the audience who might be confused by that word, right? Inner work. So
yeah.
Could you share a bit, like, what would inner work be typically? How does that look? What are like tools you love to use?
Yeah. So I'll just share from my own experience, because I feel like the storyline is there.
Sure.
I was a notorious like A-type kind of controlled individual. And it's interesting because a lot of people say, well, the opposite of control is trust. And I agree with that. That is true. But what I found for myself is there were many layers to this, because I trusted myself implicitly. I stood in myself. I trusted myself. And what I couldn't see for the longest time, and what I finally recognized, is I didn't trust my connection to source. I didn't trust what was coming to me. I had to control circumstances to create safety in my life. Unlike everyone else, but my childhood was not a particularly safe environment.
Okay. Yes.
And I created a lot of structures and constructs and parameters. And what those ended up doing was keeping me small, playing in a little box. And it was a box that was outside of society. It didn't look like other people's box. It looked like I had a ton of freedom and a ton of of resilience.
Yes.
But what I noticed is I started to like want to expand and started hitting ceilings. And I realized that I was trying to do everything on my own. I was independent, and I didn't need anyone. And like, this was my world. I created all of that, and it was purposeful and meaningful. And I needed it to understand that there's a different way.
Yeah. So how did you break free?
Well, I mean, it took a lot of pretty painful, challenging, dark night of the soul moments, because I had to release, I had to let go. I had to release the grasp that I had and really be with what is, and be okay with what is, and be okay with others the way that they were, and be okay with, like, I could name a billion things that I had to become okay with. But the scenario is essentially being okay with myself, learning to trust my connection implicitly, and operating in a way that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. The things that, and I'm not saying that I'm doing anything even to them. I'm saying I'm living my life in a way that other people don't understand.
Of course.
I can't recognize, why on earth would she do this? Well, I don't have an on earth answer. And that's really the truth of it.
That's a nice one. Very nice. Very cool. I have one question for you, and then we are already moving to the end of the interview, but mindset mastery, right? Before we touched on that a bit. So how important is that?
I think that mindset is important. I also think that it can't really be a forced circumstance. Like you can't just sit around and force yourself to believe something and then it becomes true and then you're like this healed individual. I I think that it requires, for me, mindset mastery requires shifts in perspective, understandings of situational awareness from my perspective, from their perspective, like all the ways that you can dissect and unravel what is the truth with a capital T of something. To me, that's mindset mastery, because then I can see it all with the awareness that I have tapped into the super conscious that's available to all of us. And it creates a very loving space, even when people don't show up to you in love. You can show up in love for yourself and in love for them, understanding that they're doing the best they can with what they have. And that's the truth.
I think that's nice. So it's kind of, yes, it's called mindset mastery, but again, you're making the point of coming from the inside out versus a force coming from the outside in, correct?
Yeah. Well, if you're out looking for validation in this world, I'm just going to tell you that you have signed yourself up for a life of misery, an entire life of it.
Agreed.
There's no question in my mind. And when you start to learn that you don't need validation because you are valid,
yes,
you are a divine light being who has come here to embody who you are, and you work through your self-worth issues and your value issues. And I mean, I could go on and on. It's really just a lot to do with the chakra system.
Of course.
You can start building things in your life that create a foundation for you to show up in you, which is all that you're here for. It is the greatest gift that we have. And free will takes us to it and away from it all the time.
All the time. Yeah. That's the classic loop we spoke about before. The loop. There's the success loop and there's the other loop.
There you go. There you go.
In the same universe. So, Angie, can you share some magic with us? Is there a trick to fast track success?
Oh, that's so interesting. So a lot of people talk about time, like I need to speed things up.
Exactly.
And I would say, I hear a lot of people talking about how time is moving faster in the world. Like, we're moving faster. We need to speed things up. I question in myself, and I believe that time is not speeding up. Time is a consistent static function of our life. Here's what's speeding up: our evolutionary cycles.
Yes.
And the way that those evolutionary cycles are speeding up, it's impacting time. And so I don't think that there's a way to speed it up unless you focus on developing your awareness. That is the only thing that can speed it up, because that's the only thing that allows you to stand in yourself and move through this life with your own core of well-being intact in wholeness.
Right. So time is being present. If you're talking about awareness, it means to be present, correct?
Awareness, yeah, it does. But it also, there's like it's being, I want to say immersed, because people talk about being present, and I can be present with a lot of things, but being immersed, meaning tactile senses, like touching, feeling, hearing, sensing, connecting, like being immersed is what I consider awareness, because that's how you get all of the information you need. It's not just being present to me. And I'm just making a distinction.
Good. That's good. That's a very good distinction. That's really cool. So, Angie, last question. When do you personally recognize that magic is happening?
Oh, I have come to the space, and I will tell you, this is not a space I've always occupied, but everywhere. It's always happening. I'm having magic with you right now.
So do I. Same.
This is magic, and it shows up confirmational. It shows up when you ask. Asking is so important. The source consciousness wants to deliver you. They want you to have what you want. We want the same thing. There's alignment there.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's really just us moving out of our way to see the magic. It exists in every single moment, in every single way. There are constantly signs, there's numerology, there's people talking, there's messages being sent, there's all of the ways that you can think of, and ways that you can't. I'm just gonna say.
Yes, correct. Great, Angie.
And so I would say that the magic happens as you see the magic of you. Like, again, as you can see how mystical and magical this life is, the fact that you're here is statistically 1 in 400 trillion.
Yeah.
If you add up all of the lineages, all of the your grandparents having to meet the way they met, like all of the little synchronicities that had to happen, that is not an accident. It is not an accident that you are here, and you deserve to show up for yourself and shine your light and be part of the magic of the fabric of this plane.
Beautiful, Angie. I thank you so much for your time today. I mean, this has been truly inspiring, and I'm sure everybody who's going to listen to you is going to love it. So thank you so much, and we'll be in touch very, very soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was so fun.
Well, did you like it?
Good. I love it.
That's so cool. Thank you, Angie.